In this video, I'm going to talk about the dodge, burn, and sponge tools. So these tools are all what we call destructive modifications. And they're going to, whatever layer you have selected that you use them on, they're going to destroy, the original elements in that layer by either lightening or darkening or taking away the color of them. So first, before we do anything more, I'm going to talk about the dodge, the burn, and the sponge tool and what exactly they do. So over here on your toolbar, I'm going to right click on this little hand thing underneath my teardrop here, and that's going to be the dodge tool. And I'm going to start with that one. And what the dodge tool does is it lightens aspects that it hovers over. It's going to lighten your image. It brightens things. That's its sole job. Now your dodge tool, or your burn tool, I'm sorry, is going to do the opposite. It's going to darken your image. It's going to darken what you hover over. It's going to do, like I said, the opposite of what the dodge tool does. And then the sponge tool we're going to talk about later. But the dodge and burn tool are what we're going to work with right now. And I'm going to go back to what I had here. So in this image, I have a couple of different layers that I've brought in to show you guys why it's important to merge your layers before you use the dodge and burn tools. Because if I just have my, my layer 0, my image here selected, because you see my person and my cat and their shadows stay put. If I just have that selected and I go in and use my burn tool, if I go to, darken over this area, it's not going to darken the cat because the cat's on a separate layer. And we don't want that. We want it to darken the entire section that I'm wanting to burn, essentially. So in order to do that, you're going to want to have all of your layers onto one merged layer. But in this case, I don't want to lose all of these individual layers that I have here, because if I don't like what I do with the dodge and the burn tool, I want to be able to go back and still have all of my individual elements to mess around with and edit and that kind of thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to merge all these layers, but we're going to merge them onto a separate layer. And there's no like tool or other command in Photoshop that can do that other than when we press Control, Alt, Shift, and the letter E together. So again, that's Control, Alt, Shift, and the letter E. So when I do that on my keyboard, I'm going to do Control, Alt, Shift, E. And now you see over here, I have a layer that has all of my elements now merged together. You can see my shadows, you see my person, my cat, and then the background essentially is all together. And so if I move that to the top, I have this image that has all of my elements merged that I can now use the dodge and burn tool to lighten, and you can see it lightens everything that I hover over rather than just the individual elements that it had beforehand. So you guys see how these tools work, and I want to, maybe I want to redarken my cat. Maybe I want to make it look like there's a spotlight on someone. Just lightening and darkening certain aspects or the entire image as a whole is what these tools are good for. And now, I still have all of my elements. So if I don't like that, all I have to do is hide that, and I can keep messing with my individual elements, or I can just delete that layer entirely, restart, and end up with something that I like better. So that's the dodge and the burn tool, and using them on a merged layer. And now I'm going to talk about the sponge tool a little bit. And the best way to kind of explain what the sponge tool does is to mess with teeth here. So I'm going to go back to my original image. And you can see this girl's teeth are pretty yellow. And we don't necessarily want that. So again, in the same tool drop down as my dodge and burn, I'm going to find my sponge tool. And what the sponge tool does is it's going to either saturate or desaturate the color that's within an image. And so, if you think of a sponge, you think of it kind of soaking up soaking up water, soaking up whatever else. So in this case, it's soaking up the color. Um, and in order for it to do that, we want to ensure that on our top panel here, once we have sponge selected, that this mode is set to desaturate instead of saturate, because that's going to absorb the color that we don't want. And so now, since I have that selected, it's on desaturate. All I'm going to do is just kind of color over or sponge up the yellow on this girl's teeth. And you can see how quickly that's taking away that yellow and giving her teeth that wider wider glow. So you want to be careful with this. You don't want to make it look too photoshopped. But just for, to give you guys the idea, that's what this tool is going to do, is it's going to desaturate or saturate the existing color within an image. And same as what we did with a merged layer in the healing and stamp tool example. I'm sorry, the dodge and burn tool example. If this was anything other than just a smiling image, we would want to ensure that we have all of our layers merged together in a separate layer to edit, rather than doing the individual layers themselves. But just as an example, this is what the sponge tool can do, and that's how you use it and ensure that you're using the correct mode. If I wanted to saturate that, it would kind of see how it brings that yellow back. So we don't want to do that. You want to ensure that that your mode is set to desaturate, especially when you're messing with teeth and whitening teeth. That's probably one of the most popular uses for this tool. So again, that's the dodge, the burn, and the sponge tool.